What's up, twisted people? It's your girl here, Chauncey K. Robinson, and I'm joined by my brother from the same mother, Damon D. Rock Robinson of Fried Disciples, a half of Fried Disciples. What's going on? Thank you to all of you who are joining us in the live chat, and those of you who are joining us in the replay comment section. It's always a pleasure to be talking story with you. And today, the story that we are talking about is Loki season 1 finale. And the season 1 finale, and we're also going to do kind of an overview of the review of the season, of what this means for the MCU, things like that, because we weren't here last week. So we want to kind of talk about that. And thank you all who are joining us to talk about it. And, what we want to do, we want to talk about our overall grade of this episode and things like that. Thanks to Bannon and Z Manny who are already joining us in the chat. It's always a pleasure. Bannon already giving congratulations. Bannon saying, I would like to be the first to congratulate Damon. He was 100% right about the big bad. Congrats, sir. I wonder if WandaVision kept faking us out so all of us would be totally faked out this time. Can I just say, though, he wasn't the only one that was right. Bannon, you got to give me some credit here because I literally put my bet down and said it was he who remains. I said that. I was saying that from the beginning. Now, mind you, it did end up being Kane because they remixed it. But I was the one that said that the person was he who remains. And technically, I'm going to say I was a little bit more right. Because, okay, I'm kidding. He was a little bit more right. But I will say this variant of King was pretty much he who remains. And I was the one that said that. So give me some credit here, Bannon. Whose side are you on? But it's always, Damon was right. And it's a great reset from the Mephisto debacle when that didn't come into fruition. So, okay, sure. Okay, don't get too ahead of yourself. Bannon saying, you did, Chauncey. You were right too, LOL. But I think Damon was a little bit right. Sure. All right, I'll give you that.
We both was right. We both was right.
Z Manning giving congrats as well. Michael Damian, the other half of Fried Disciples. MOON, that spells finale. Great to see the other two Fried Disciples. I guess I'm an honorary Fried Disciple as well. Chauncey did say that too. Thank you, Michael. Let's go to the tape. Yes. And Michael is saying Damon was also spot on. So yeah, we have some things we have to discuss. When it comes to this finale. One, we're definitely getting a season 2 because our after credit scene, which I kind of felt like was a little bit of a cop out, our after credit scene or our mid credit scene was Loki will return season 2. So we're definitely getting a season 2, and we have to talk about what that means, what we saw too, which could be kind of confusing for some people because our two great supporting characters, Mobius and Hunter B-15, don't know who Loki is. So it seems like they too have been affected by Sylvie's ultimate blunder. Because Sylvie, we got to talk about Sylvie. We got to talk about this character and the mistake she made, technically. Or was it a mistake? We also should talk about Ravana because I think, what's so funny, and I was saying this, I was saying Ravana was a complex character. And the way it turns out is that maybe she might have been the one that was the more right one in terms of wanting to keeping the TVA going. If you agree with the idea of how Loki ended up choosing was that the TVA needed to continue because you don't want all out war. So we got to talk about that, whether or not you agree. So I want to pose this question to you all as I get into it. First question is, what would be your grade for the season finale? I'm going to ask that first because I want to ask a little bit later what your grade is for the whole season. But what is your grade for this season finale? Let us know in the live chat and also in the replay. And then also, who did you agree with? Were you on Sylvie's side? Did you think that they needed to kill him and that it was just like, give it free will, let chaos reign, let it go wherever it's supposed to go? Or were you seeing it from our he who remains and Loki, who ended up kind of siding with him in a way, that there needed to be a version of the TVA to exist, a version that would be the ones that would help keep the timeline. Maybe not as draconian as He Who Remains was running it, but some form of it to keep things from getting chaotic because of Kang the potential conqueror. So Damon.
Many others.
And many other Kangs. Which also kind of plays on what we talked about last live stream, which was the fact that there was a council of Kangs, that there was a whole bunch of Kangs.
I called it the Kang, the consortium of Kangs.
Yeah. So technically they had that because as he was explaining, they all used to kind of work with each other and there was peace and they were deciding things to help the multiverse. Mm-hmm. But then some of them got more than others. So technically we got all of that too. So it seems like Marvel just kind of connected it all. And let's talk about,
they've been doing that lately though.
But let's also talk about, whether or not we agree with that mesh up, right? Do we agree that this was the right way to do it, or could they have done other? But first and foremost, Damon, what is your grade for the season finale?
Oh, I gave it an A+.
Okay, what's your reason for giving it an A+?
Because I was right.
Oh my gosh! No, you can't just give it an A+ because you're okay.
I can't joke. It was a good episode. I mean, right off the bat, I already knew he was Kang for a lot of the other stuff leading up to it. Mm-hmm. But then when he talks about himself, when they say he was born in the 31st, he's born in the same century Nate Richards was. So I'm like, okay, I'm extra right now, even though they mashing up the He Who Remains character with Kang, mm-hmm. They mashed that up. So I mean, the whole episode, it was good to me. It was good to me. I mean, I really couldn't get into the choosing who side to be on because they already the thing of them always letting things out worked against him right there at that point because I knew that his end was always going to come because how will we get Kang if he ain't die? Mm-hmm. So you thought it was a little predictable that eventually he would die. Yeah, that was predictable, but. In all, it was a good episode because it left me with mystery, still wondering, like I wonder who Ravana went to see. You know what I mean? It's a lot of still mystery there to keep me in tune for the next season. Mm-hmm. So it left me wanting more. That's why I gave it an A+.
Okay. Hey, Tony, thanks for joining us in the chat. Thanks for everyone who's joining us in the chat and also in the replay. Bannon is saying A+, definitely. At last, the start of the multiverse. Loki and He Who Remains were right, but the story wouldn't be as much fun. I am too also happy about the multiverse because I was hoping we'd get a multiverse. I was hoping for that for WandaVision, and that wasn't totally realized. So here we have it with this. So now my grade, I'm going to be honest, my grade for the finale was a B for a number of reasons. I love the fact that we actually got to see the big bad. Technically, we didn't really get to see the big bad. No, we got to see a version. Excuse me, sir, you got to talk. We got to see a version of the big bad. We got to see a version of the person who was kind of running things. But in terms of the Kang, the Conqueror that all of us were referring to, this was not him. This guy was He Who Remains, which is a variant of Kang, still Kang, but not exactly Kang the Conqueror, which was fine. That wasn't the reason why I gave it a B. I love the fact. I actually love what they did with kind of meshing all of that together. My thing was, I love Jonathan Majors. He did a great job. I have him up on the screen for those who are watching. I think he did a great job playing this character. And I think, I'm looking forward to what he does with the various versions. Just like we've seen Tom Hiddleston play the various versions of Loki, I'm looking forward to seeing the various versions of Kang. And so I love that. So that really helped. And I said it last stream. I was like, if they don't show us a person, and it's like some cop out, I'm going to lower a grade. So I definitely was happy to get that. Minus that, though, I felt like it was a little, for it to be a reveal, it still felt like it had a lot of air in it. You know, I don't know. I don't know. Something just felt like it was missing a little bit. I love the fact that He Who Remains explained things. You know, but I don't know. I felt like it was a little. Did you feel like it was a little slow? Like, I mean, the big reveal was the big reveal, and I love that was the focus. But there was kind of nothing else going on except the Ravana thing, which I also liked. But in terms of action, I like that we got a fight. But I don't know. As an episode, I think it was a great culmination. But as an episode, it definitely wasn't the most riveting. Aside from the fact, if you were watching it up to this point and wanting to know what the heck was going on. I mean, even Mobius's, standoff with Ravana felt a little lackluster because I'm like, what was he planning on necessarily doing? Although they went to go find Ravana.
I like that part. I thought that was a good part.
I mean, it was a good scene. I feel like there's going to be a continuation between the two of them. I love that complexity with their relationship. And I'm wondering what foul He Who Remains showed her, because now she's saying, I'm on the look for free will. What does that mean? Who is that? So I love the fact that they set up the stuff for Ravana. I love the potential of what season 2 is going to look like. I love the potential of what the MCU is doing with going forward. In terms of an episode in and of itself, I was like, okay, it's good that because we got a culmination, but in terms of an episode itself, I felt like, oh, cool. This is good. Not like, oh my gosh, that was the best thing ever, the best episode of the season. I still think that's episode 1 for me, but it definitely was a solid one. So I didn't mind it. I just was kind of like, oh, okay. Z Manny is saying, I like that they're using Kang and I like what this actor's doing so far. Yes, Jonathan Mayer's doing a great job. He's a hot commodity right now in terms of acting. He's kind of like everywhere. For those of you who watched Lovecraft Country, he was on that show and he did a great job doing that. He was also in the critically acclaimed independent movie Last Black Man in San Francisco, which was where he kind of blew up on the scene. And he's going to be in another Netflix Western with my man Idris Elba soon that people should check out. So he's doing a lot of stuff. He's kind of everywhere, which is really cool. Bannon is saying, speaking of slow, I do think the series could have been trimmed down to 4 episodes at most, or even a movie. This was a lot of air in the whole show. Exactly. I just felt like there was a lot of air to get to where we ended up. It was a great setup, but I just felt like some stuff was like, why was this 6 episodes? Although, I mean, I know some of us were like, oh, we want more episodes. But then when you think about what actually happened, I'm like, this didn't really need to be 6 episodes. We didn't need 6 hours of this. I
enjoyed it. I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying that they could have trimmed it down and it wasn't spectacular.
I enjoyed it. And it was finally a series that actually gave us a main big bad that's going to be a big bad in movies coming up.
Yeah, a real big bad. That's great.
And this is why I said they actually showed him, because the statue at the end,
was him. Yes,
it was Kang. You could tell by the dress. See,
I know
they had. I'm
talking about in the flesh, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you might.
No,
I get you that variant of Kang was not there in the flesh. I give you that. I give you that.
Okay, so all right. So what would be your overall grade for the season, though, Damon?
The season?
And let us know in the chat and also on the replay. What would be your overall grade for this season?
It balanced out to a
An A?
A minus, maybe.
What's your reasoning?
A minus, maybe. I'm just going by some of the episodes want, what the episode 2,
I actually liked episode 2, but I know you liked episode 3 better than episode 2.
Yeah, some episodes, was so that's why it goes down to an A, maybe an A minus. But I still think it was strong. Like I had said, I think this was going to be the series that was going to definitely connect to the movies. Even though it's looking like all of them do,
All of them do.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all in the same
now,
universe. So there's
no. I mean, actual now.
Yeah, like direct.
After seeing the Black Widow, I see that now. I see with this every movie, every series got a connection to some of these movies. It's just different. I guess what they call different plateaus.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, I'd also give this series a B. I think I'm giving it a solid B. I really liked it. I didn't hate it. I thought it had a lot of promise. I think it utilized that promise. It just felt a little empty in some parts. It felt lot of air. While with WandaVision for me was an A+ show. The last bit of it was kind of like, oh, so we're not going to get a reveal of like a big bad, but that's cool because this was really it was such a great character driven show with major things happening. So I loved that for WandaVision. With Loki, I felt like it was character driven in some way with Loki himself, but even that felt rushed at times, like his whole feelings with Sylvie and stuff. I was just kind of like, this feels a little bit tight, like kind of convoluted in order to make this mean more. This whole situation, I feel like they kind of really pushed that in order to make the betrayal. Yeah, some things are very obvious.
Actually, keeping it 100. A lot of even the lead up to the big bad was real obvious. Like from episode 1, it was obvious.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I feel like it was obvious, and I think we talked about this. I think it was obvious if we hadn't felt what we felt with WandaVision, that all of us wanted the huge big bad and we didn't get it. So I think, like others have said, maybe that was strategic to make us not think we were going to get Kang.
Get it this time,
so that we would always be like, it must be somebody else because they didn't give that to us in WandaVision.
Obvious, right?
Yeah. So
like when they went back to Ravana at this thing and her number was 823, like shit was just obvious.
Yeah. And explain what that number means, Damon, for people who aren't in the comics and stuff.
That's the first issue Kang and her was in actually together.
823 was the first comic book that
823.
So there's little nuggets and stuff in there. So that was obvious in a way, but I think because of WandaVision, many of us were just kind of like, they're not really gonna do this. They're not really gonna show all of that. Yeah. So in a way,
I was scared. I was scared to throw this like they're gonna get me again.
Yeah. And then it's someone else. So I definitely see that. But yeah, I gave it a solid B. I liked the characters we were introduced to. I'm glad to see Hunter B-15 staying around. I love her. She's also from she's my girl from Lovecraft Country. She's actually my favorite character in Lovecraft Country.
Rest in peace, her character. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. She was phenomenal in that series, and also in His House, the Netflix horror movie. If people want to know, I did a review of that, and she was in that as well, and she was amazing. And so I'm glad to see her staying around. I like to see Mobius staying around. I'm interested to see what happens with their characters, because it was kind of sad that they broke free only to be kind of brought back in to everything, duped again. They broke out and now they're back in it again. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on there, but I still think it's a solid B, only because there were some detractions. It was a lot of air. Certain things felt convoluted in order to have the stakes be raised. I really felt like the thing with him and with Loki and Sylvie was pushed, so we'd have that moment where she killed He Who Remains, and Loki really felt that, and that was that moment. So they built that up. So we could have that moment. And I'm not always it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg, when it comes to writing a story. As a storyteller myself, I just feel like it's like, okay, tell the story. Don't just make something happen so that this makes sense. Make it make sense in and of itself, not just because you need this to work. And I felt that in some angles with this, and it was just a lot of air. So I would give this a solid B. Bannon is saying A- because, like you said, Chauncey, it was a lot of nothing in places, and I would have liked to see more, though I'm not sure of what exactly. It just felt like there was some stuff missing. Z Manning is saying, I like how they're ambitious with these shows. I agree. I definitely agree. They are definitely I mean, honestly, for those of us who may be used to the Marvel formula, and I say that as a semi-Marvel fan here, as you can see with my Hulk, but also a DC fan, probably a little bit more. There's a certain formula when it comes to Marvel movies, and I know there's been a lot of.
It's not comic book friendly.
It's not comic book friendly for those who are Marvel fans, but also even for those of us who are more into the MCU. Although I do like the comics, I've gotten more engaged with the comics as of late again. There's a certain kind of formula where it does seem like they don't take chances. It seems a little sanitized, in terms of what they actually achieve. So it was nice that, like, with these series, that they're taking chances. Even with Falcon and Winter Soldier, they address some stuff that you would never think they'd be addressing in a Disney-owned product when it came to racism and things like that. So it's good that they're trying those things.
And was the first instance of the mashup was there, right?
Oh, with them kind of
put Power Broker and Sharon Carter together as one thing. That was our first take of the mashup. Now we got a major mashup, two major.
Yeah, this is a major mashup. So we see what they do. But like, for someone who's into the MCU, I know there's been a lot of talk, and I'm curious what you all think in the chat and also in the replay. Sorry, my cat really wants to come up here. Say hi to Pato, everybody. One of my babies. My other baby got surgery today in terms of getting the teeth out. Elliot. Yeah, but what are you all thinking? Then I'm curious because you are both an MCU fan and a Marvel Comics fan, hardcore, a little bit more than I am. I'm more DC. That some people, after Black Widow isn't doing like monstrous amounts of money in the theater, that some people are saying that Marvel, the cinematic universe in terms of the movies, might be in a little bit of trouble because of the fact that everyone doesn't seem super excited about Shang-Chi. People are wondering how to wrap their heads around the Eternals. I also have my reservations because I don't think everyone's as excited for some of these characters they're introducing. And so I feel like their strong suit right now might be their series. Like we have She-Hulk coming out and others that seem like they might really kind of shake it up a little bit more than the movies was. Because I feel like some people are kind of tired of the formula of the movies.
I mean, if you like what people like nowadays doing what we going through, people like staying at home watching things. I think that's why it's probably ain't doing well in the movies. How the streaming things doing it? If they streaming it, and besides, I ain't paying $30 to watch that, But
see, why wouldn't you pay $30 to watch Black Widow?
Yeah, when you could go now, I don't know. Maybe they thought that would get people in the movies. You pay $30 to see it here, or you pay what, $19 or however much it is,
or $19.
I mean, at the movies to go see it. Maybe some people are picking that 30. A lot of stimulus money probably still floating around, I don't know. Maybe that's why people not going to the movies. I don't think the movies are dead though. No, it's too much good stuff coming, man.
With MCU.
And these series, the series is a good thing. That's a real good thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, with I think it was during the Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Marvel trying to mess with the DC when it comes to these series, man.
We'll see. Titans is coming back, so I'm not. I'm partial. Tony is was saying in response to someone to ban it, but WandaVision would be my favorite if it wasn't for the finale. I feel like a lot of people felt like the finale was a little bit of a letdown for WandaVision, but as a whole, the series is stronger. And I think it was good. Yeah. With Loki, it's more like the first episode was really strong and the end episode was really strong, but maybe the middle parts of the season were kind of like. For people, kind of the total opposite for WandaVision.
They said, Wanda, this is good. We really don't even need a big bad.
Yeah, probably.
Big bad. It's going to stand on its own.
But we need to add something for Loki.
They knew all the action sequels were going to go for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. And they said, this one ain't as strong, so we're going to definitely put a big bad in this one.
Michael Damian is saying it felt really small for a large concept show. I think that was really the set pieces and stuff, right? Everything was very simple looking.
They downplayed a lot of big characters to me. They downplayed the timekeepers. That actually,
that was really weird. We got to talk about that.
Don't exist. They're so they downplayed.
That's so weird.
And if you think about it, they downplayed He Who Remains too, because he he's not as like a well known, but he's a more bigger, powerful character than Kang actually is. So they downplayed him to bring on Kang, being that they made He Who Remains a variant of Kang, even though he looked like Immortus. That's what his dress looked like, just without the head guard. You know, so
yeah. Speaking of He Who Remains, this is what he looks like in the comics, y'all.
Yeah.
I alone of all my race am left to guard those who shall survive eternity's ending. I alone am left to sow destiny's seed. So they meshed it up, definitely. For those of you who are watching, I just have a picture of the comic book version of He Who Remains, who I had called to be the man behind everything. So I was right. I still right for that part. Z-Man is saying it was weirdly emotional seeing Wanda evoke those different emotions during the through the decades with the WandaVision show. WandaVision was just such an in-depth show in terms of character. And it was a little lacking in Loki a little bit. Bannon is saying, I think what is hurting Black Widow is the timing. I still say it should have come out before the first Avengers movies. As to Eternals, it is a bit niche. I am excited for Shang-Chi. I agree. I think Black Widow was ill-timed. I think people are going to have to, I worry for Shang-Chi because it's great that you have a man of color who is like this main character, but I worry that it might not catch on for everybody.
And it's a lot of things going halter the Shang-Chi. The main thing to me, I think that messed it up before it even got thought about, was them having that, even though it was a good actor playing the part, but an imposter Manchurian, goodness gracious. In Iron Man, they had the they had Ben Kingsley playing them.
Okay, I don't know.
In my head, it just was in my head. It went like this.
Yeah. But this is the thing. I don't think a lot of people know about Shang-Chi, and in terms of outside of the comic book fans, and this is the weird. Yeah, but this is the weird thing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe in this next phase. You have a lot of ones that in the first 3 phases, we had a lot of characters most people were so new. Even if they didn't read the comics, you just kind of knew who these characters were in some form of way. And I feel like with the other ones, they are, as Z-Manny is saying, or Bannon was saying, that it's niche. It's Eternals is very niche. Even I hadn't read those comics before, and I've read many. I've read a good amount, and I tried to get into them, and I couldn't, because I couldn't wrap my head around the way they did the universe with them, because you kind of had to rethink. Excuse me, Beto. You kind of had to rethink everything else you had seen thus far and try to fit them in there. So it was hard. So I wonder if it's going to be the same thing for people who are trying to fit it into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Z-Manny is saying, I agree about Black Widow, but somehow its emotionalism also seems to fit with us knowing what happened afterwards. Yeah. Z-Man is also saying, Shang-Chi looks really exciting. I'm especially keen to see how they use Tony Leung. Michael Damian is pointing out that it was the Mandarin.
The Mandarin, yeah. The Mandarin is a link to Shang-Chi. I believe that's his uncle or his, he somehow is in the comic book. He somehow is like, how great uncle. How they got like a different sense. The guy ain't got to be related to him to be his uncle or something like that.
Okay.
In Asian cultures, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's something like that where he's like he's like an uncle or a father figure to Shang-Chi.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I mean by making a fake Mandarin. And now you have Shang-Chi coming along. Wouldn't it have been easier if y'all had made that a real Mandarin there?
Yeah. So, all right. Question then is, who do you side with, Damon? And let us know in the chat and also in the replay, y'all. Sylvie, let's talk about Sylvie's decision. Sylvie's choice. There was a battle. They basically got told everything. When I was sitting there And when he first said you guys can run the TVA, I was like, oh my gosh, that's kind of, I was going to say you were even more right a little bit, Damon, because I think one of the things was, okay, I know you know, that look at it, y'all see this guy?
No, I knew when you.
But that you had said in a few streams before that Loki was going to end up being the one to run the TVA. Which I still think might happen, just maybe not. It didn't happen this season, but I think eventually that may be what happens, that Loki kind of eventually, and we'll talk about that with predictions. But, you know, I kind of saw it and I was like, it was an interesting concept because you have this thing where He Who Remains, and I'm going to call him He Who Remains instead of Kang in this particular, because that was his variant in one of his versions. He Who Remains was telling Sylvie, grow up. You know, and I thought that was very poignant because I was like, I get it. She was taken from her timeline, so she wants revenge, and she's just like, everyone should be allowed to do whatever they want, chaos or whatever. But I also got what he was saying, where it was like, listen, this had to happen. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, right? You know, in order. Because he was very smart. And this is kind of a hard truth, right? We talk about free will. We talk about everyone being able to do whatever they want and things like that. And that's just how it should go. But then there's also the question of order. And that sometimes if everything just is to just be, you don't necessarily have order. And so, and it doesn't have to be order where it's like you're stealing people from their timelines and removing their memories or something like he was doing, but it could have been a different kind of look, maybe a little bit more lax, more like he was telling Loki, like, go back, tell everyone their variants, but say, hey, we still have a purpose. We still have to keep things in order. And so you know, with all of that, I honestly was like, I agree with him, but this is what is so funny about that, because it's not the most obvious choice. And this is why I appreciate it. Same thing with WandaVision, where everyone had debate about whether Wanda was right or whether Wanda was the real villain in WandaVision because of what she did. And that was kind of a gray area. I appreciated that this was also something of a gray area, right? Where it was like, yeah, I kind of was like, man, as someone who is kind of like, you know, left leaning and things like that, am I really saying I kind of want this TVA to stay in place? Like, do we need a TVA? And this is kind of what I was asking in previous streams, right? I was like, the question, like, I love that. One of my reason why episode 2 was one of my favorite episodes was because of the conversation that Mobius and Loki had about free will, about whether chaos should reign or whether or not people need order and things like that. Because I thought it was a very interesting question, especially in our current times, about order and people's choice and things like that. And so I found myself agreeing, and I kind of wanted Loki to take up the mantle of having to run the TVA, a little less draconian and stealing people, but still kind of being like, we need to keep order because there's a real thing that could happen with a real danger. And then Sylvie makes the choice that she's just like, no, this is wrong. People should have free will. Do you think, Damon, and let us know in the chat and also in the comment section, do you think Sylvie was being too short-sighted? Or who did you side with? Who did you think made the most sense?
Like I already said that it really didn't make a need for me to choose right then, because we already knew what was going to happen. But I don't even. This is my take on it. He Who Remains is he was tired of being in that spot. He wanted her. He wanted her to kill him. He knew it's something about them two being together that I don't think him or any other variant of Kang is going to want. Because that whole time he was there, he was doing and saying things to split them apart. You know what I mean? Pointing out the flaws of things in them, like you really like Sylvia, you really think you could trust this guy? You know what I mean? Doing things to try to force them apart. I think he wanted this to happen. I think that's what the wink was for at the end, because he knew this is how it was going to go. You know what I mean? He knew either one of y'all gonna kill each other, but the thing that it didn't happen, that one of them killed each other. She pushed him through he probably knew that was gonna happen too. But I believe he wanted this to happen. That's why he winked. That's why he said, "I'll see you soon." That's why he talked about being reborn.
Yeah, he said reincarnation, baby.
Reincarnation, yeah. I think he wanted all this to happen. So I don't really think it mattered what either one of them either choice. I think it would have eventually led to that happening.
Okay. So you think, so are you saying you don't think he was being honest when he was talking to them?
What?
Because you're saying he always wanted her to kill him anyway. So are you saying?
Yeah, look. I think things went out of. Remember, he was standing there, and he just like, oh, we just crossed the threshold. That's when. So everything was already splintering, and all that before he even died. You know what I mean? So things could have already had changed already. You know what I mean? Because remember, I mean, they ain't telling us how time goes. But when she pushed him through the door, we know from the other places, once you go through that thing, you're right there. He was already in the time of that Kane controlling, because that's when he went to them and they didn't know who he was. And she hadn't even stabbed him yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, regardless of how anything would have happened,
she had stabbed him and then they went back. It was after the fact.
Remember, she pushed Loki through the thing before she stabbed him.
Yeah, but he sat there. Things could have changed as soon as she got stabbed. He didn't leave the room until after the stabbing.
What you mean he didn't leave? He
didn't leave the room to find them until after the fight.
He didn't get up and run.
Yeah, he didn't get up. He didn't leave out of his space.
All right, we could say that, but they flipped back to them. So when they got back to him, you thinking that's the time he went through the thing. He on the floor. He got up. He ran down the hall. Seen the Minutemen running by him.
Yeah. So
time had already changed. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's why He Who Remains paused like that and said, "You feel that?" That's when everything was already off.
It was starting to happen. That was what was happening. It was starting to happen. Yeah.
I think it wouldn't have made a difference.
So you think? I mean, okay. So my thought process is that I think he was telling the truth, very much so. I do agree with you and others who are saying it, that he was probably tired. He said, I'm older than what I look. He's like, I'm kind of tired of doing this. If y'all want to take over, my work continues. If you want to kill me, this all will happen. What was interesting, because what he said actually was that he was going to end up there regardless. That's what he said. He said, no matter what, I'm still going to end up right here. So he was saying, whatever happens, I'm still going to end up in this position. One of me is still going to be the one of He Who Remains. He's kind of saying I'm in an infinite loop, not an infinite loop, but kind of like no matter what you do, either I get to stay here, we kind of keep this course, or you kill me now and we eventually get back to this course, because one of me is going to decide that we need another TV, we need a TVA, and someone needs to control the timeline, and so on and so forth. So yeah. No. Actually, I think you're missing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that he's saying that He Who Remains would come back, not the king that we saw in the statue. What he was saying is that eventually one of me will end up right here again.
I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. At the end, it'll be one who
decides to do the same thing he does, and decides to stop the multiverse thing. Exactly. So I think. Want some water?
I'm good.
Okay. So I think, what Bannon is saying, just like Bannon is saying, I agree, which is definitely Sylvie was being too short-sighted. She was blinded by hatred and revenge. I was surprised and glad to see Loki's growth in that he was willing to see all sides and consider it. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Sylvie was being short-sighted. I think she couldn't see past her own hatred of what she had been through, because she too had been going through what she went through, but she didn't really take everyone else into consideration, which is kind of a Loki trait, right? Sometimes making choices that is kind of selfish. And she even tells Loki after she kisses him to distract him is, I'm not you. Like, you grew up, you got to see the bigger picture. Family. Well, not that, but more so you grew in this moment. You can see the bigger picture. I'm not you. I don't want to see the bigger picture right now. He needs to die because of what he did. She wasn't willing to have that moment of growth that our Loki did. So this is what we are with. I sided with Loki. I think Sylvie made a really bad decision. And I kind of hope that for season 2, we're not going to get a whole kind of redemption story with her kind of a deal. I feel like she might see the error of her ways in a way, but I also don't want more of that. I don't want to see another thing of this. I mean, the character's okay. And, you know, but I do think a line was drawn in the sand there. You know, maybe she can grow
more of that love.
I actually, honestly, I actually disagree with you. I think that what we're probably going to get, depending on fans' reaction to it, because I don't think a lot of fans are on board with the Sylvie Loki romance as some epic thing. I think this was a means to an end for them. I think the way the writers even described it was we were doing that to kind of show Loki's growth of what he was doing and stuff like that. And I think maybe they might continue it in some form of fashion, but I don't think it's going to be the centerpiece going forward. I don't think it needs to be. I think it was a little contrived, in my honest opinion, to make that emotional push of her pushing him through, being like, I'm not you, be a bit more intense. But it wasn't, I don't think it's needed for next season necessarily. Robert, who is joining us in the chat, thanks for joining us in chat, Robert, is saying she did what she had to do. I don't blame her. I would have done the same thing in her shoes. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's definitely a viewpoint.
Point to change. Like, the reason I said because Loki had family is because he did. She didn't. The most thing that changed Loki through this episode we've seen when this Loki when he's seen his mother die from his actions. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's seen Odin ain't died from his actions, but he got to watch that. He didn't know Odin had not died, I guess gave his whatever the gods do.
Yeah.
He watched him do that. Then he seen himself die after he was trying to redeem himself. I mean, so he had I'm saying he had other people to care about to teach him how to care. Mm-hmm. She never had that. But she was living in apocalypses her whole life.
Yeah.
So there's no way you get to know people living in an apocalypse.
Yeah, and it was and
he
maybe
pointed out to her though.
And maybe that's the real connection. The fact that Loki felt that real connection with Sylvie is maybe what's going to give him the push to take over the TVA. Because maybe had he not met her, it would have been something more, but it turned into something else. So there was that. Bannon is saying, I think he who remains didn't really care what the choice was. I think he was tired, but I think he wasn't above. I told you so. And I think that's what he did. He was like, see you soon. He was like, you know, I could. He was like, I could.
Like, he knew that was going to happen, though.
I don't think that's what. I don't think. I disagree with you. I think he told her.
He knew that was going to happen.
No. Right. He even said it. He said, interesting. You know, he said that he was quite enthralled with the whole situation. He even said, he said, I don't know anything that's going to happen after this moment.
Yeah, I heard him say that.
And he's like, I don't know anything that's going to happen. And he was like, this is interesting. And he's like, and she's like, aren't you going to beg for your life? And he's like, I could. And then he's like, see you soon, I guess. Cause he's like, no matter. He winked at her, but it was kind of like, I see you soon. Like, it's kind of like, I'm going to see you again because I told you what was going to happen and you didn't believe me. And so that's what we're getting.
But she didn't believe that it was going to be other kings coming back also.
Yeah.
She thought everything he said was a lie.
Yeah.
Remember that. So he could have been referencing because who says how long this is going to take for it to come down to he who remains again.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be old as hell. Like, you know, who says she's going to be around till then. So maybe he just meant by I'll see you soon as another variant of me. I'll be seeing you soon.
No, I don't think he had that kind of vengeance in him. He was at a point where it was just kind of like, I see you soon.
Just pointing it out. Like, yeah, you will see another variant of me.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he meant it in various ways or whatever. Also check the private chat, Damon. Yeah, I think he meant in a various of ways. So, and while you do that, I'm going to read what the other things are saying. Z-Manny is saying, I read one theory saying he wanted her to kill him so he could be released from this role. I think that's part of it. Like others are saying, he was tired. He was tired.
And look, and the main thing he said himself, like when they all came together, they was controlling their times. But how do you control the time? By conquering it, right?
No. I don't think. I think he said one of them thought that way.
No, he said I've been called many things.
Yeah,
conqueror,
a jerk.
All the other stuff. So that was him doing them, and he's the king. I believe they always are the same mind at one point in time. So he got tired of the warring. So he said, but still, maybe I feel he wanted to go. Pike could have wanted to go back to that. I missed the old times.
I don't think so. I think he was one of the variants that wasn't maybe he had came to be a conqueror at some point, but then he decided, I don't want multiversal, I don't want
multiversal madness.
Yes. So yeah. Tony is saying Sylvie had the most interesting character arc of the entire show. I think, I feel like if people were digging Sylvie, that's great. I thought she was a means to an end for Loki's growth, and I felt like that was kind of made obvious with everything they kind of pushed with the two of them, but I like that, I didn't hate her. I just,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because she didn't really, did she really learn to trust by pushing them through? Would that trust, because I'm not going to kill you, so that's trust in them?
I don't think that's trust. That's more like, I care about you.
I didn't really see an arc with her.
You didn't see growth. Yeah.
Yeah, she's basically the same, right?
She came in as she was. I mean, I think she ended up having some feelings for Loki, but I think she stayed the way she was. Is that an arc? Not necessarily, but I do think it was an interesting introduction of a character. I think an arc I feel like she didn't grow as much, but that's why I say she was a means to an end, in my opinion, for Loki's character to grow. Mistress 9, thanks for joining us in the chat. Mistress 9 is saying it was a bad decision, but hopefully a fun one. I want a good villain, not a redemption arc. I agree with that too. That's what I'm saying. I feel like let us know in the chat on to replay. I don't think Sylvie's gonna turn evil necessarily, but I do think I think a line was drawn in the sand. I think she basically said, I want different things than you do, so I'm not going that path. I don't want to be benevolent. I don't want to keep order and things like that. And that's a different path than Loki. Maybe we will see an arc or a growth with her next season that she may get to that point. But I don't see that. I think there was a line drawn to say that's not where Sylvie's going, which makes for great tension. Loki having feelings for someone who is the way they are could be an interesting kind of a thing.
She's a little mashup too, though. It's just not actually character-wise, but name and character. So maybe she becomes
Enchantress.
Maybe she kept that little time thing. Who knows? Maybe they might just go overboard, and just because she got that little Tom thing, and she could do Tom stuff, and make her then make her Terminatrix and keep old girl a school teacher, even though they use one of her aliases when she's the school teacher. But
what, Ravana?
Yeah, so they made her real life. She's a school teacher.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about Ravana in a second. Yeah, we got to talk about Ravana. Mistress 9 is also saying that they want more Gator Loki, and I am in so much agreement with you on that, because I want more Gator Loki. Bannon is saying Chauncey is right about this. He even said it, what I was saying about He Who Remains and what his kind of motivation was. Laundry Day. Okay, let's see what Laundry Day is saying. That's a very interesting name, Laundry Day. I think we all have our laundry days. Thanks for joining the chat. Laundry Day says, Sylvie messed up the church's money. I see this as more biblical. Sylvie pushed Loki to take the metaphorical apple. Now we're kicked out of paradise and got the multiverse. That is a word, Laundry Day. I feel what you are saying. You have a point. I think she took the temptation. I agree with you. She took the temptation, and what we got was, Damon, what did I say?
What?
The private, the thing.
Oh, okay.
the laundry day. And what Laundry Day is saying, which is, now we're kicked out of that. I mean, I think they had to bring in the multiverse one way or the other. Maybe we'll get X-Men out of this. That could be a good thing, getting X-Men. What do you think what do you think the multiverse is going to bring, Damon? Do you agree with Laundry Day on that?
What? That
she took the temptation, that she made the decision, and now we're all kicked out of the paradise of a one timeline, and now we have the multiverse. Although I'm quite confused because I thought we had a multiverse already because of what the heck was going on with Spider-Man.
Yeah. I'm not putting it all on Sylvia. Like, I think the multiverse was always going to come along or happen anyway. It's still Nexus beings in the world. It won't no telling when that time a Nexus being was going to break that that multiverse thing. But I like how they put it though, about messing up the church's money and all that.
Yeah, I love that. That was a good word. That was a word.
I like how
we like the word. We enjoyed the word here.
She pushed him and she took the apple.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe so.
Yeah. So do you think we're gonna get a redemption arc with Sylvie?
Who knows? I mean, right now they might as well just make a more bad and badass.
You think she's gonna go over
You can have a love story within enemies.
That's great stuff. I would prefer that over whatever that is.
Yeah, it has happened plenty of times. So I don't think she exactly has to like redeem herself in the second one. If this guy, it all depends on how they do it with who's ever running that TVA or how all that goes. It all depends on how all that goes.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a big somebody that's could be a bigger bad than her, then no, she probably will do the redemption thing. But if they could keep it where she could be, maybe she gets badder.
What do y'all think in the chat and the replay? Do you agree with Damon that maybe she'll go completely bad, or do you think there's only one way she can go? Do you think we'll get more Sylvie next season? Do y'all want more Sylvie next season? Let us know, because I can love it or leave it with this one.
We definitely need Sylvie, unless they're gonna bring like young Loki or Loki alligator back.
I would love that. Not Loki.
Look, they're downplaying Ravana right now.
So, are they though? We'll talk about it. Yeah. Mistress 9 is saying he didn't know Sylvie was going to kill him. That moment she decided is the moment he realized he didn't know what was happening anymore.
He didn't what was happening.
Like, I guess Mistress 9 is saying that he didn't know whether or not she was going to kill him because he stopped.
When he said, I can't, I don't. What he say? From this point on, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then
threshold.
Then he took the thing off and pushed it towards him. I think he did that on purpose. I think he always knew. That's what I believe.
Okay. Well, what do y'all think? Do you think he was kind of being?
Yeah, I believe he was tired of having this. Know what I mean? They got through here. Like, all right. Come on, did he really believe y'all the ones to take over and do this? 2 Lokis?
I think he did think that. I think he honestly said, I created this path and you guys followed it. And I think, this is,
so why separate them? Why try to cause tension right now?
I don't think it was really, I think he was trying to see what was going to happen. It was kind of like, I honestly, I actually see what you're saying, Damon.
They got you downplaying who He Who Remains is.
No, what I'm saying, Damon, is I think that I felt like that was a weird dialogue to have. I thought that was the one line in it that did seem kind of weird to me, that he was like, can you really trust this? Because everything else he was saying wasn't anything like that. And then he said they have him say that thing, and I'm like, okay, but I thought you said the two of them should work together. So why are you saying can you trust? But maybe he's also maybe he was 50-50 on it. Maybe one part of him was like, okay, kill me. The other part was like, don't. I want to. Maybe, I mean, he also seemed like he was a little bit off his rocker too. So maybe he just he seemed really enthralled with watching them. And I think part of him was kind of like, I want to see how this plays out. Let's see how this really plays out. Bannon is saying, I thought and hoped Sylvie would be more. Maybe we will see it in season 2. Bannon is also saying, I think Sylvie will remain an anti-hero while Loki is seeming to be becoming a full hero. Mistress 9 to what I said about X-Men. I think X-Men should be their own universe, not tied up to in the main MCU. I mean, it could be. I think at this point, I think at this point it could be either way. I think it might be very hard to bring the X-Men into the current MCU. That's why I think with the multiverse, they'll probably try to do that. That maybe in another verse, there's X-Men. That would make sense as well. Any way to bring in the X-Men. At this point, they need to bring in the X-Men. So,
yeah. I don't trust. I don't know. I don't know what they do anymore in this MCU.
Yeah. Tony is saying they're looking forward to Spider-Man Far From Home. Yeah, because they're doing the multiverse thing. Maybe this will play in. Do we think it's going to play into what we've seen with Loki? Is Kang going to make an appearance there? I mean, how does that work? If someone's kind of pulling the strings,
it would make sense if Loki showed up in a multiverse madness.
I think he's definitely going to probably do that.
That would make sense to me.
I think X-Men. I think Ant-Man and Wasp is actually 2023 is when that's supposed to come out. When is Multiverse of Madness supposed to come out? I think it's afterwards, right? Might be afterwards
or before. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's like right after Spider-Man, right? The Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna be in Spider-Man, right? Too, right?
I don't know. Who's supposed to be in Spider-Man?
Doctor Strange. He ain't gonna.
No, I don't. I didn't hear about Doctor Strange being in Spider-Man. Laundry Day is saying, I think Sylvie knows this was an empty win. Now we get Kang, Doom, Nightmare, Blade, and dare I say it, Mephisto. He knew the future. He needs to be evil to fight what's coming. Maybe that's another idea, but then it's like, when you say he needs to be evil, are you saying Kang Laundry Day? Are you saying like who needs to be evil? Because Kang is part of the problem if he's evil, right? Kang wants to conquer everybody, and then you have all these other Nightmare and things like that. Blade's not really a bad guy. Blade's just half vampire. We don't know what's going on with that upcoming movie.
He did say that they have a Nightmare Realm or something. That's in the first episode, right?
Yeah. Okay. And Laundry Day is saying Kang needs to be evil. Well, I mean, if time and destiny is inevitable, if maybe our Kang, our He Who Remains, knew that Sylvie was not going to divert from her path, and there was no way that our Loki was going to convince her otherwise, then I guess in some way, maybe he understood that it wasn't 50-50, that maybe it was more 60-40, that most likely she was going to find a way to kill him. So maybe he kind of saw that. But he also said, he's like, this could go one of two ways. Either way, we always end up right back here.
So maybe, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking if he really, I think he did know he was going to die. But if he really was on some, it's going to be another me, a good me to try to make things better, then he probably sent Ravana to the 31st century to get Nathan Richards before he becomes Kang. Possibly.
Yeah.
Other than that, if that's not what happened, he wanted to bring the evil side back. He was ready to return to the dark side.
I don't know about dark side because he's a very. It wouldn't have been him. You know.
It wouldn't have been him.
It wouldn't have been him. Because he's dead, so it's not really him.
But he said
reincarnation in terms of who he was then. Ray is saying he was amazed because up until that point he knew everything that could happen. Two Loki working together caused a new timeline he wasn't aware of, and he was tired. He said he was ready to be done. Yeah.
And look, that's funny. Them two together, they're a nexus being, but apart, they're not. That's what I mean by he was trying to drive a wedge too. It's something. I think the second one we'll find out more about whatever happens when them two are together in love. Because when they had that moment and it started to branch, because I don't think neither one of them is a nexus being, but together they are.
So or maybe what they sparked in each other.
Out that union?
I don't know about all that. That's incest.
You'll make a pure nexus. It can't be incest.
It's cosmic incest.
It's self-cess.
Okay, anyway. Bannon is saying, I think Spider-Man will show us the consequences of Loki starting the multiverse and Doctor Strange trying to fix it. That could be it. Although, didn't we see some of the multiverse in the previous Spider-Man? I'll admit I didn't watch it. I'm not into that Spider-Man. So
Mysterio came from another universe or I guess out of the multiverse.
Yeah. So how did that happen? Did Kang let that happen?
I don't think Kang let that happen. I don't know.
See, this is what I mean. And this is where it gets all tricky when it comes to time travel. Because who controls that?
Right? Because now we're on this timeline, right?
Yes.
So it couldn't have been Kang, because He Who Remains would have still been running things during that time.
That's what I mean. When I say He Who Remains, if He Who Remains allow not Mephisto, Mysterio. It was Mysterio, right?
Mysterio, yeah.
Mysterio to come in. Was he okay with that?
I guess so.
Where was the time variance for that one?
A lot of stuff be going on with Tom and you never see him. They did the whole, but like they said, that was supposed to happen. Maybe that was supposed to happen.
That's an easy fix, right? Oh, that was supposed to happen. The thing with Thanos, that was supposed to happen. Okay, so let's get to some of the other happenings that happen. And also, if y'all haven't already, please do give this video a like. Feed the algorithm monster here. The algorithm monster is more fierce than Eliath. So if you want to feed the algorithm monster, by giving this video a like, that's always appreciated. And if you like to give a super chat to show some love or want us to dive deeper into a question that's not necessarily pertaining to this, so a super chat is always encouraged to have us do that, or however you want to do it. Okay, so one thing I did want to say is that I really love seeing Miss Minutes. Seeing Miss Minutes was very cool. I love seeing more of Miss Minutes. I hope we see more of Miss Minutes as things progress, because that's a great voice actress. She's awesome. She's our Harley Quinn voice, as we always usually love her as. And so I'm excited to see more of Miss Minutes, and I'm glad she played. She's a very cool character. I would want a Miss Minutes plushie. That's all I'm saying. Just like I want a Loki Gator, I want a Miss Minutes plushie. It was Miss Minutes, right? That I said the name, right? Miss Minutes. Miss Minutes was the clock, for those of you who are wondering. Yes, Miss Minutes came off as evil as heck. I don't think she came off as evil. I think she came off as Miss Minutes picked her side. She picked her side, and her side was aligned with He Who Remains. That's who she picked the side of. So
she's still calling me that.
Yeah, he was like, I like it. You know what I mean? And I feel like him and Miss Minutes. I want more of Miss Minutes, because I feel like she has been with Kang from the jump, it seems, and was created from the jump for him. And I also in connecting this, I think we have to connect to what was going on with Ravana.
No, my bad.
What?
Someone said only in the finale did they realize she was a clock and not an orange.
What? Yeah, only in the finale I realized she was a clock and not an orange. Like that, would she be orange? Like that wouldn't make any sense. Mischief's mine. Wow, that is funny.
Oh, and you were saying something about Ravana?
Yeah.
Oh. I hope next I hope next season we get to see her storyline, or either they go deeper into it. I don't know if they're gonna stick with the teacher thing. So maybe, I don't know, maybe she won't be the Ravana we know from the comics. Maybe she will be
I mean, there's definitely a mashup going on.
Yeah.
Not even a mashup, maybe a change of origin in a way.
Yeah. So maybe she, will be that. But I do say this though. Wherever she went when she came back, because the first thing she said when she got back was only he has free will.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever she went to see, or whoever he who remains sent her to find, I think she might have aligned with them, and maybe that's why the TVA is the way it is now. When Loki enters there and sees a different statue and them acting a totally different way.
Mm.
That was a major brain wipe. How they wipe all them brains like that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Or I feel like it's kind of like, how was the TVA completely? There's so much to kind of unpack about what could happen in season 2 and how certain things are explained. Those of you who are watching, I just put up a thing with Kang the Conqueror on the cover fighting Thor and the Avengers in general.
I believe that's her in the background, right in the all the way in the back right there.
Ravana. I think, yeah, that might be her.
That might be her, but usually she had like.
Oh no, that's the one from Guardians of the Galaxy. That's who that looks like, because the antennas.
Oh, she got antennas on her head.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like okay, so my thing with Ravana is I don't think she's totally an evil character, because we just had a whole discussion about, whose side will we really be on? Clearly, she's okay with the draconian kind of way that He Who Remains was running things, which isn't very good, because that kind of reminds me of Nazi soldiers in a way, where it's kind of like, I was just following orders. So it's kind of like, because we have a purpose, we're willing to do anything. I don't think that's a good look necessarily, but I do understand what she was saying, because she had come to a realization of how things might be, right? And so with Ravana, I think that this might be an interesting evolution of this character. I feel like, one, I think she went back to the timeline of the 31st century. I think she may have gone to find the first Kang. That's the first thing I think. But I don't think she's going to be I don't think she's going to be evil. I don't think that's what we're going to be getting with Ravana. I think she's also going to be a gray character. Yes, she's made her decision to not be on the side of Mobius and stuff, but more so because she says there's a purpose. And kind of in a way, if you think about it, she ended up being more aligned with our Loki in the end than Sylvie did. What do you think, Damon?
I mean, she did because she wanted the TVA to stay. So you're saying that from that point of view, yeah, she and Loki was on the same page, but she didn't want Loki to be running it.
No, not Loki per se. Yeah,
but she wanted to always be a TVA. Yeah, but they was basically at the end. Loki got around to saying that maybe we need to keep the TVA. Yeah.
Yeah. Kat is saying, my prediction. Thanks for joining us in the chat, Kat. Kat is saying, my prediction is Loki is in a different timeline at the end. So do you think he went to a different verse, Kat? Or do you think that that's not our Mobius and our B-15 that we've known for this season? Do you think that's a different version of them, and that he was transferred to a timeline where the other Kang is now in charge? That could be something, because that might actually make a little bit more sense than him getting sent somewhere.
See, this
that thing was still happening, right? How would that work? It probably would make more sense that he was sent somewhere where another Kang was in charge.
No, I don't know.
Okay, what do you think?
I think with them things, you control where they go. They've been doing that the whole show.
Yes.
So I believe she sent them where she wanted to send them back to the TVA thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she sent them to a different timeline TVA.
Okay.
I think she sent them back to the right TVA, but I believe, like I said, I believe that the timeline was already splintering before she even stabbed him. So I think once he went back, it was already a different timeline in that aspect.
Okay.
And I think whatever Ravana did helped that timeline come about. Whatever she went back and did.
You think that affected something?
Yeah. I think once it happened, that's when he felt it.
Kat is saying also, I think Ravana didn't like her life, so she embraced the TVA lifestyle. Yeah, and let's talk about Ravana's origin story in the comic book. So they changed it, seemingly. They changed it. We don't really know if they totally changed it because maybe another part of this would be revealed. But in the comic books, Ravana is actually a princess from a different verse, right? A different Earth. She is a princess. And like her and Kang meet, she doesn't kind of like him at first, and they kind of have this antagonistic. And depending on where you're at in the comic books, it's like either it's antagonistic or they're kind of together, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's like he's an invading force into her kingdom, basically.
Yeah,
but he lets her kingdom still go because he's in love.
Yeah, he fell in love with her.
He let her father still control that kingdom.
Yeah. So I think the question then is, what do you think, Damon? I think I'm okay with the fact that she was a variant as a teacher in a way, but at the same time, I was like,
it's like another poke in the eye because she when she got after Kang basically tried to give his life to save hers. He was like in a coma. She took over his power. She took over Chronopolis. She was running everything. That's how I said she's the one who actually freed Elias. She took over. She would go to different places, different times on Earth, and she actually went to a time. I think it was the Avengers or Captain America. She had went back in time. She actually used that name, Ravana Trume or something like that. That's actually one of her aliases. So I'm like, wow. So they actually gonna use her alias. But she still ain't gonna be the Ravana we know. But she's I don't know.
Where do you think they would have fit the thing of her being a princess at though? I think that's the question. I mean,
right now they can't. Only way that could have worked is if he who remains was the one that was in love with her. And since he's been around for so long, he could have met her at the time where there were princesses or whatever. That's the only way I could have went with that.
But now you're like,
I'm still trying to see if they even going to have a love thing with her and Kang. It might just be in the fact that she could have had went back in that time and did what she did or whatever. Maybe that could have sparked the love interest. But I don't even know if they still going to do that. I mean, she might not never turn out to be the Ravana Renslayer that we know from the comics that goes on to be Terminatrix and all the other things she did. So I don't know. I don't know with this MCU.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I like what they've done with her in a way. I would have preferred the princess storyline because I'm just down for seeing Black women as royalty, but also
I took the Terminatrix thing, even though it still directly connects to the princess. But if they want to start, they could have started it from there. If they didn't want to go back to the princess thing,
yeah,
they still can though. She still can end up being that, maybe.
That in some other timeline.
Yeah, coming up, maybe she could still be Terminatrix.
That's for those of you who are watching. I just showed a picture of her and Kang in the comics. Is saying use them to pluck the ones. My lord, Kang, where are we? We are together again. That's all that matters. I discovered, however, that in doing so, I created a divergent timeline, one in which it was I who died, not Ravana. So. So they've got a long history there. So it might be interesting to see what they do with that history. Because this is them in love right now, but then there's another one, which I will show, where she don't like him.
Well, I mean, it's a love-hate, it's a love-hate relationship with them.
Is it love-hate, or does he just catch her at different timelines and she's just
No,
kind of a different person sometimes?
In the comments, she doesn't want to be with him. She always rejects him. When his lieutenant tries to go ahead and kill her anyway, thinking that Kang just got soft. Kang jumps in front of the shot or whatever, and goes into a coma. And then she like, oh, you know how? Oh, you saved me. You gave your life for me. She I guess became endeared to him through that.
Yeah. Ray is saying, just seeing what y'all are saying in the chat, TVA existed outside of time and space, so I'm not sure it's a different timeline. I think it is the current pocket dimension of the TVA due to Sylvia and Kang meddling in timeline due to her. And that's the thing too. If it's a pocket dimension, how does what she did affect it?
It's called the noise zone. Is it the noise zone or something like that?
Yeah, but it's like it's supposed to be independent from everything. Yeah. So how does that work? How does it work that all of a sudden it's different? If nothing's supposed to affect them.
True indeed. If time doesn't affect them yeah, you're right.
And Bannon is saying, oh, and did anyone else notice the timeline didn't just branch and have branches? The branches branched, and even those branches were branching.
It was branches going into each other.
Yeah, it looked like chaos. That's
stuff going on.
Yeah, exactly, Damon. And I think that's why I'm honestly saying I think Sylvie messed up. I don't think it was the right choice to make. I think your idea of, not your idea, David, but like for Sylvie's idea of chaos and free reign, what we're getting is going to probably cause a lot of havoc that didn't necessarily need to be. Although, the easy choice is let everyone do what they want and let chips fall where they may. But that's not really how superheroes and stuff work, right? If that was the case, superheroes would never intervene in anything. They just be like, well, that's supposed to happen. Why use my powers to fight it? Right. And I think that's the same thing we got here. And I feel like Sylvie kind of made the wrong choice. Just showing for those of you who are watching the screen, here's a thing where with Ravana and Kang in this one, he says, silence, you are merely a puppet, rulers, and you know that full well. Kang is the power here now and always. If you incur my displeasure, I may not permit you to one day rule the universe by my side, Ravana. And Ravana's like, I'd rather die. And, Kang is like, that too can be arranged. With Kang, all things are possible. He's talking about himself in third person. That's a problem. He's very much full of himself.
Yeah. Narcissistic. He's the very much full of himself.
Z-Manny is making some historical connection there and saying the name Ravana is famous from another mythological connection, the Demon King from the Ramayana. Any connection? Perhaps. I don't know. I don't actually know what they were thinking when they named her Ravana back in the day, but I could see that. Yeah, so I could definitely see that being a thing, which would be cool if she kind of had that kind of thing. So what we have with Ravana, I think Ravana is also going to play a big part, and I'm actually really interested to see. I actually also think her thing with Mobius may continue to be a thing too, because they also have a connection. And that scene with them, although I felt like it was a little anticlimactic when she left, that scene with them was really, you really felt something between the two of them in that moment. And I wonder if that's going to be a thorn in the side with her and Kang.
If they even have a her and Kang.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't they have to put Ravana in the Quantum Mania 2 then, if they're going to have something with them?
She might be.
Even though I think...
Then again, we don't know what version of him's going to be in that.
Remember, I mean, it could... Not all that. That's what I mean. Not all of him is called Kang, though. Like I said, you got Immortus, you got Kang, you got what some people might... Then again, stuff is messed. Stuff is weird with this MCU.
Damon the purist, right here.
Yeah, because he was also supposed to be. It's a guy called Ra. He like one of the Egyptian things. But it's Kang. He a version of Kang. His name called Ra something. And stuff is weird, man.
Yeah.
The timekeepers help send them there, but if they don't exist in this, if they was just machines in this MCU and not real beings.
So would you say that's your main gripe with it, that they made it so that the timekeepers aren't real and they always were puppets?
No. As long as they, I mean, we getting Kang, so.
So you're like, who cares?
Yeah, timekeepers always like behind the scenes anyway. They would get people like in the comics. Kang wasn't always a bad. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the timekeepers would enlist him with things to do, could go after the Avengers because this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen, like stuff like that. They were more. That's what I mean by these people were more powerful than Kang, and they downplayed him.
Mm.
So you can imagine if the timekeepers were giving Kang stuff to do, telling him things to do, then who was he who remains? And he made the timekeepers. That's what I mean by they down. It's like they took, but I get it though. I get
how they made him he who remains. He's the Kang that remained. See, that is right. In this version, he's the Kang that remained because he had all his other ones, and then he defeated all of them and was the one that remained. It's different, but you know,
from the comics.
Bannon is saying, speaking of different Kangs, do you all think we will get Teenage Kang as Iron Lad if they do a Young Adventures? Well, I mean, there's a lot of variants of them, so I
think they already setting it up for it.
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about every Young Avenger we've seen. I said this like a couple shows ago. Think about every Young Avenger we've seen in all these series and stuff, and we're about to see in the movies coming up. Because the chick that play Miss America, she gonna be in the multiverse. So I think they lining it up for Young Avengers to come. We done seen Speed and the brother. We done seen them already. Wiccan and Speed.
Wiccan and Speed.
We done seen Patriot already. And what's the name? And Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We seen Elijah Bradley already.
Yeah. No, they're building it up. So the question is, will we get a Kang who is that? Kat has a question. Sorry if this is a dumb question. No questions are dumb, Kat, so don't worry about that. Is He Who Remains and Kang the same person? YouTubers had me thinking they were two different people. Whatever each episode 6 I'd seen it's just a variant. Well, it depends on what you think of a variant, right? I mean, it could be complex or it could be a simple answer. The simple answer, in my opinion, and Damon can give his after. The simple answer is that he's a Kang from one of the verses. He had other Kangs that he knew from other multiverses. They all were chilling in peace. And then basically they started being fused, and then he got rid of the other Kangs, and he is the Kang that remains, which is different from the comic book, because in the comic books, He Who Remains wasn't a Kang. This just sounds like it rhymes. He was someone who worked for the first version of the TVA, the first version of in the comic book, because in the comic books there was more than one TVA. What they did in what they did in MCU is they made it so that
they mashed them up.
They mashed it up. But you can't just say mash it up, because if you don't have comic book reference, what they did in the MCU is basically they made it so he created the first TVA because there was a group of Kangs at one point, but then they started feuding and there was a whole bunch of war, and he decided that he just wanted to have one. So he's not a variant. He's not a variant of a Kang. He's one of the Kangs from the multiverse. He's not a variant, though.
Yeah, he kind of is, though.
Okay, don't just say kind of is. What do you mean he kind of is?
I mean, he is a variant.
Explaining it the way I explained it. How is he a variant?
I mean, he's a variant.
There is not another Kang.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, it was other him.
But in multiverses, you get what I'm saying? He explains that they came to visit. That's not a variant.
Ain't Loki is other him?
No. Loki, yes. Loki is other him. But no. Damon, there's other Lokis from other verses. That's what was happening.
And they was
Loki that's a variant is the Loki that got removed. The reason why Loki is a variant is because he was removed from the 2000. What was it? Was it 2012?
No, look,
from the 2000. That's what made him a variant.
Every all them Lokis were variants that was on that thing.
Yeah, from their real timeline.
Every last one of them, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So these Kangs, when they realized, they started coming to meet each other. So they are variants of each other.
No.
Right?
No, I don't think that's how that works. You can't call something a variant. What
is that?
To me,
that's not the definition of variant. A variant different.
No, it's not.
No,
not in my opinion. My opinion. Listen, what I saw from the way they were explaining, the reason why everybody in the TVA is a variant. Think about it. We saw Ravana's real version. The Ravana that's in the TVA is a variant because she was not the one that stayed in the timeline. That's why she is a variant. A variant is the person who is divergent from the timeline they are on. The reason why He Who Remains is not a variant, because he's not a divergent from a timeline. He's from his multiverse. He's from one of his verses. The other Kangs are not variants of him because they are from their verses. Ravana that we saw is a variant because she is not in her timeline anymore. You get what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay, but you don't agree. I got it. All right.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I definitely hear.
No, Laundry Day sees what I'm saying. I thought He Who Remains he is the original. He's the original from his verse because there's multiverses. Ravana isn't from a multiverse. I'm using Ravana as an example, y'all, but Ravana isn't Ravana. What the Ravana in the TVA is the Ravana we got when she diverged, and then they changed it and kept the real Ravana there. Just like our Loki, we still got all the Avengers, right? Loki still died by Thanos' hands. That's our real Loki. The Loki we have here is the divergent. Time still returned and went on because he left and they kept it. And that's why I don't see Kang as a variant, because that's not how he came to be. He was who he was, and he just met other people from other verses.
He just met other him.
From other universe. That's not a variant. That's not a variant. You get what I'm saying, David? Like, that's not a variant. That there's timelines and then there's universes, different universes. That's not the same thing as a timeline. A universe is not like Earth 6. What's the Earth in Marvel?
Hold on. You said it's timelines, but
there's timelines and then there's multiverses.
What was He Who Remains running? He was running the main timeline.
Main timeline.
Now,
because he decided to get rid of the other timeline.
Yeah, so that got in trouble when the thing started branching off, right? And we're saying that branching off is making a multiverse.
Yes. What?
All right.
I mean, it's time travel. It gets weird. Maybe
I don't think it get that. I don't think it get that weird. I think the timeline got to be the verse.
Kang's not a variant.
And I mean, so if it's a if that timeline was making it into a multiverse, then you saying he just made one verse out of everything?
I'm saying he's not a variant. Universe? I don't know about all that other stuff. I know he's not a variant. He's who he was. There's no other him in his timeline. But now that he's dead, that variant, that Kang that we saw, that Loki saw the statue of, that may be a variant version of him, because now that's the other version of him. Anyway, Kat is saying, sorry, my question has the siblings going at it. We're not going at it. This is how we normally talk. LOL. I agree with Chauncey's explanation. Thank you.
That's because I did more arguing than explaining.
Anyway, Bannon is saying, oh my God, now that I think about it, Chauncey is right. Variants aren't the same as multiverse counterparts, right? That's what I meant. I should have used the word counterpart. You have your multiverse counterpart, but then you have your variant from the timeline. You saw Ravana. There was still a Ravana in her timeline, but the Ravana at TVA is a variant in another universe. They went back in time. No, they went back in time. He went back. He sent her back in time to that date.
on that
Yes,
thing, right?
but you get
So
what
that
I'm
was
saying?
that Ravana they took. That wasn't a different Ravana.
That's not the Ravana that they took. That's the Ravana that remained and kept with her timeline. Just like Loki ended up still getting killed by Thanos. If they had went to that time, you can't say, oh, that's our Loki. No, that's the Loki that stayed in his timeline and went through everything he was supposed to go through. The Loki we have is the Loki that didn't do that. Now, if there's a multiverse, and this is where it can get confusing, because in my mind, I think Gator Loki and all those other Lokis are actually from other universes. That's what I honestly think. I don't think they're variants from their other universes. You get what I'm saying now?
Where they were at, that was young
a different
world. No, where they were mm-hmm. At the end of time, that was his world. That was his universe, right?
No, that wasn't his universe. Young Loki said, I've been here so long, it's my kingdom. It was because he had already gotten there that it was his kingdom. He didn't start there. It's because he got used to it. But you get what I'm saying? Like, you can have a multiverse counterpart, just like with Mysterio, right? There's a Mysterio from another place.
No, it wasn't no Mysterio from here, though.
Okay, whatever.
My universe. No, it wasn't.
No, I'm not saying whatever to you, but because this is why time stuff is so weird. But this is my idea. I think variants are different from multiverse counterparts. I think. I got you. You get what I'm saying now, though?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Zayman, say this is really entertaining, like vaudeville. That's a compliment.
I got you, though. No, I got you.
Yes. Yeah, like Ray is saying, it's only a variant if it's separate from the sacred timeline. So, yeah, it's confusing. It can be confusing. It actually was a good question you had, Kat, because that's the question, right? Because this is probably going to also affect next season, because the statue we saw of that king, and this is why I ask, was it the same TVA that he went to? If it's a different timeline and stuff changed, then the king we saw in the statue may be the king that Sylvie killed, but a different version of him had he stayed. I don't know. Or is it a different king that just came about? That's the weirdness. Is it a different? And that's why what Kat said actually makes a little sense, because she's not a little sense. It makes some sense because Kat is like, I think he went to a different timeline. But maybe it's a timeline of what if that king that we know, the he who remains, never became he who remains. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's why it's kind of could be a different timeline. Because if she kills him outside of time.
Mm-hmm. Look, this is hello?
Yeah.
You had just said something?
No. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying something just, I don't know, it clicked out, then you click back in.
Oh, must be your connection. You've been good for me. Michael Damian saying, can we talk about the Terminator timeline next? Timeline is so weird, and that's why I wish they had just introduced the multiverse and not all this variant stuff.
The thing is throwing me is if the multiverse is coming from the timeline splintering, then that mean that timeline is the universe. That's what I'm trying to understand here.
But this is why Damon, this is what I'm saying. I think we're both making some good questions, because that's why I asked you about Spider-Man, because I was like, how is there a multiverse already there if he came from a different multiverse? If Mysterio came from different multiverse, that means multiverses were already existing before all this happened with Kang getting killed, with he who remains dying.
That's this MCU. In the comics, Mysterio don't come from either actor from Hollywood or something.
I know. But for whatever reason, the MCU is doing this thing with Spider-Man. You know.
So maybe,
what is Bannon saying? Again, in Far From Home, Mysterio was an actor who faked being from another universe to get Fury's help to get Stark. Oh, okay. So he wasn't really from another multiverse. Right. But aren't they doing multiverse in the next one?
Yeah. I figured that's how they got on from him. I figured he really was from
But they're doing multiverse. So does that mean that this is happening because of what just happened?
It could be. That would be fresh. That would be fresh.
Kat is saying, when I first heard about the Loki show, I thought it was going to be Loki 2012, killing all the other multiverse Lokis, increasing his power with every kill.
like the one.
That would have been very cool. Although I don't know how many of us.
If that could actually happen, that would have made a lot of sense too, with the end of it, because that could have been like Kane had already done that.
Yeah. Z Manning saying, I think the new Doctor Strange movie may clarify some of these multiverse questions. Yeah. I mean, I think they have to, because if this is okay. So I'm going to say this before we, start winding it down. But this is why they started, even they did this with DC too, y'all. When you start doing multiverses and time travel and stuff, it gets real weird. To the point where most comic books, well, not most, the two major comic book franchises that we've seen, Marvel and DC, usually do a retcon. They usually decide, okay, it got real complicated. Let's just switch it all back and make it all one timeline. They did that with DC. And I think they did that at least once in Marvel, right, Damon, where there was multiverses, and then they kind of decided it got really complicated.
They just put a number to it, and it's like, all right, we 6, I believe right now, we 6-1 something with a bunch of 9s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got people like Ravana and them, they from a different Earth. They're like Earth 3082.
Yeah. They had to start a number. It can get very complicated to the point where, depending on how you're, especially in comic books, because you have writers writing one story over here, writers writing another story for another character over here. I know with DC, they just reset it. They got tired of the multiverse thing, because the DC had multiverses. And we know that because of the Flash and the Flash. And I think they're going to be I think what they're doing is the reverse with the upcoming Flash movie, where they're opening up the different timelines now. But in the comic books, they made it so that they got tired of all those multiverses, and they just brought it all back in because it got really complicated to write.
Marvel multiverse might be the only way they can actually bring
X-Men
mutants in. So
that might be what all this is leading to.
Yeah, like that this is probably the only way they could see doing it. Because like you had said before, if they do bring them in, how can Professor X be old and nobody never knew about him all this time? So I think they will have to come from.
They're gonna have to do a multiverse. There's so many things they have to. It's complicated, y'all. I honestly, as someone, as those of you who are watching the
good complication though, because I want to see.
No, and I agree. As those of you who have watched our WandaVision live stream, I've been wanting the multiverse. I wanted the multiverse in WandaVision to be shown, because with Silver Surfer, I wanted that. But I also know this can get real complicated if they don't have a real game plan of how they're going to make all this make sense, of different multiverses and timelines and all that in the main MCU. So it might get real weird, and hopefully they know what they're doing. Ban is saying, by the way, Chauncey, I have high hopes for Titan season 3 and hope you will be reviews and discuss it. Yes, we will. Speaking of which, y'all, for those of you who will be watching, speaking of DC and the Bat family and all that, for those of you who will be watching Titans coming on HBO Max, it used to be on DC Universe. I don't even know if there's still a DC Universe, but Titans will be coming on HBO Max. For those of you who are watching it, I will be doing reviews. Damon may be joining me for the reviews. Hopefully he will, because we love talking and arguing these things. So we will be having that on this channel. And for those of you who watch Evil, the show that I guess which channel was it on originally? Evil. I think it was CBS, right?
CBS, yeah.
CBS. I'm catching up on those seasons, and I will be doing.
Not on CBS no more.
Well, it is, but the first and second season of Evil is now on Paramount Plus, and I'm catching up on that because it's a show that I've been wanting to watch. So I will be doing. Hopefully, when season 3 comes about, I will be caught up enough, knock on wood, God willing, to do reviews of that as well. And for those of you who are watching American Horror Stories on Hulu and FX, I will be doing some recaps of their one episode horror shows as well. So just giving y'all little updates about what's going on the channel here as well. Ray is saying, all I know is none of this mess happened on the OG watch. The Ancient One and Odin really held down the MCU universe as we know it. All this mess happens after what? Croak. Yeah. It's true. That's true. You have a good point. And it might be a mess. I don't know. We'll see the future of the MCU. Right now, I think they opened up a can of worms. I also think it's very ambitious that they have, if this is what starts everything, I think it's very ambitious that they made this happen on a TV series and not in a movie. What do you think, Damon?
I think this is just I've been said, I thought from the beginning, I think this is going to be the one that's going to connect to the movies. Like I said, I didn't realize it at first that all of them were. Like, we already know that Wanda going to be in the multiverse thing, so she's connected from that through that right there. I was wondering how they was going to do the thing with Loki, but it's still going to be It's going to be Quantumania. So they couldn't. I think these is good. All this is good. Especially this one. It needed to lead into a movie.
It did.
As we see, even though like I said, I think they already had. I think they had 12 episodes of this probably.
You think they had 12?
Yeah, I think they.
And that's why we're having season 2.
That's why we're gonna have season 2. But like I also said, I don't think season 2 is coming out till right before Quantumania come out. So we might not see season 2 till like the end of 2022. Whenever Quantumania get ready, have a month, like that, then they gonna it's gonna come right before that come out.
Yeah, I definitely I agree with you. I think it's good stuff. I just hope I agree. I think Kevin Feige, who is the president of Marvel Studios, I don't think he'd be letting any of this happen if he didn't have a plan for it. Because one thing I will say about Marvel is that they map out stuff. They have ideas and they really do tie stuff together. So that's a good point. And Z-Man, I'm open to some older movies, revisiting some stuff and things like that. Bannon is saying, Feige did say in an interview that you would need to see these shows to follow the movies. I love how he's tying all these together. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are we looking forward to Hawkeye? I never look forward to Hawkeye launch day.
Why not? I'm looking forward to Hawkeye. And we're gonna see another Young Avenger in Hawkeye.
I'll watch it for that, but
and it ties.
I don't know if I'll be reviewing
we might even see. Is it Yosana? I want to mess the name. Yosana? I don't know. The sister from Black Widow. We might even see her and make an appearance in Hawkeye.
She might.
We know what's her name make appearance on the series and the movies now. Valentina, Tessa. So you never know. It's gonna be good, man. Things will get good on the series side.
Cat saying, "Why Hawkeye?" Yeah.
Well, everybody hates Hawkeye.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to She-Hulk. I am looking forward to that. Bannon is saying, I hope if we do get a Young Avengers, it's a show and not a movie so they can explore all the characters at least at first. Yeah. I definitely think they're going to do Young Avengers because Marvel and DC are always kind of going at each other. And we do have DC Titans, we have DC Titans. There's probably going to be a spinoff with Red Hood when it comes to DC. And so I think Marvel is going to definitely, and we already have Miss Marvel coming out, which is a younger version, right? She's a young superhero. So I don't see it too far off. I think they're laying the groundwork
for it.
Yeah. Well, all right. Any last predictions, Damon, before we close it out here?
No, that was my prediction. I think it's going to come right before the Ant-Man and Wasp come out. We might even see Loki in multiverse. You said it's definitely possible. So
it's possible. I don't know when they start filming, but it would make sense if he's supposed to be part of this, especially if he's supposed to be trying to help do whatever he ends up doing. I think the question also is, when is season 2 of Loki coming out in the midst of all the other movies, right? So that's also going to play on timeline wise, not variant timeline, but our timeline of how we take in this, right? Of how we take in this information of when season 2 is happening. But it may be like you said, Damon, that they actually filmed more episodes than they showed, so they could maybe just put out season 2 and the second half is season 2, and so they don't need to do a whole bunch of filming and stuff. But yeah, I really don't have any predictions because I honestly don't know where they're going with this. I don't know where it's tying into. So I'm excited for the potential. I do think overall my grade, as we were saying earlier, for those of you who are joining us a little bit later in this live stream, my overall grade for this season was a B. I thought it was solid. I think there was a lot of air in this season. I think they could have cut out with the air, and at times it felt a little aimless, or that it was more so going all up to this, but then there was a lot of air to get there, in my opinion. So Damon gave it an A. And he gave the finale an A+. I also gave the finale a B. So I'm a solid B for this show. Damon's a solid A for it. But once again,
they scare me with the character mashups, though. They scaring me. They're scaring me.
Spawn versus Doctor Strange. I could see it. Oh my gosh, I love Spawn, y'all. And I am so excited for the Spawn movie to come out. Hopefully, unlike what they're doing with Blade, they'll keep it rated R, because you cannot have a PG-13 Spawn. Just like I don't think you can honestly have a PG-13 Blade, but this is Marvel and Disney, so that's probably what we're getting. My order of preference for the TV shows in this order: WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki. So I think that's kind of a lot of people's opinion, that Loki is kind of the third one, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because the bar is set really high. All 3 of these series have been watchable and not hate watch for me. So, and no, Bannon, it looks like the way it's looking, that Blade is probably going to be PG-13. So we don't have official word, but I did a video for those of you who are interested on that news and my analysis about that. It's in the videos of just go to, on the channel. I talk about Blade not being PG-13 and why Blade not being rated R and why I think that's a problem. So check that out. But once again, y'all, thank you so much for those of you who joined us for WandaVision, who joined us for this, and hopefully you will join us for DC Titans and She-Hulk or whatever else we choose to do. It's always a pleasure to talk story with you because stories make the world go round. Yes. And if you haven't already, check out the other videos. And thank you so much for joining us. Anything else you want to say? Excelsior, Damon?
Excelsior.
Excelsior. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.